Many people make the same mistake when dealing with a Sigma female. Because she's calm, patient, and slow to react, they assume she has no limits. They believe she'll always forgive, always understand, always stay, but that's where they misunderstand her completely. A Sigma female isn't someone who explodes over every disagreement. She doesn't create unnecessary drama. She doesn't threaten to leave after every argument. Instead, she quietly gives people opportunities to change. She communicates, she observes. She hopes the relationship can improve. Unfortunately, some people mistake her patience for weakness. They continue breaking promises, ignoring boundaries, taking her kindness for granted. Until one day, something changes. Not with an argument, not with revenge, but with silence. The frightening part is that by the time most people realize they've pushed a Sigma female too far, the damage has often already been done. Today, we'll explore 10 things that happen when someone finally crosses a Sigma female's limits, and why her quiet response is often far more powerful than anger. Let's begin. 1. She stops explaining herself. One of the first signs you've pushed a Sigma female too far is surprisingly subtle. She stops trying to make you understand. Before reaching her limit, she communicates openly. She explains why something hurt her. She tells you what she needs. She gives examples. She hopes the conversation will lead to change. But after repeating herself enough times, she reaches a difficult realization. People who truly care don't need the same lesson over and over again. So she stops explaining. Not because she suddenly has nothing to say, but because she no longer believes her words will make a difference. This silence is often misunderstood. Some assume she's finally accepted the situation. In reality, she's beginning to accept something else. That the relationship may never become what she hoped it could be. 2. She stops reacting to the drama. Many people expect emotional reactions. They expect shouting, arguments, long emotional messages. The Sigma female often responds differently. The more unnecessary drama someone creates, the calmer she becomes. Not because the situation doesn't hurt, but because she realizes emotional chaos rarely solves emotional problems. She refuses to let another person's lack of self-control determine her own behavior. If someone constantly tries to provoke her, manipulate her, or start conflicts over small things, she gradually stops participating. She answers less, argues less, explains less. To the other person, this can feel confusing. They expected resistance. Instead, they receive distance. And distance is often much harder to fight than anger. 3. She starts protecting her energy. The Sigma female understands something many people learn much later in life. Energy is limited. Every argument, every disappointment, every broken promise consumes emotional energy. Eventually, she begins asking herself an important question. Is this relationship giving me peace, or constantly taking it away? If the answer becomes obvious, her priorities begin changing. Instead of investing all her energy into fixing someone else's behavior, she starts investing it back into herself. She focuses on work, her goals, her health, her hobbies, her personal growth. This isn't revenge, it's recovery. She's redirecting her emotional investment toward the parts of life she can actually control. Many people don't recognize this shift until they realize they're no longer the center of her attention. 4. She stops believing. Promises, trust is built through repeated actions. It's also destroyed the same way. One broken promise may be forgivable. Repeated promises that never become reality slowly lose all meaning. When a Sigma female has been disappointed enough times, something changes. She no longer listens to future promises with the same hope. She listens politely, but she waits for proof. She stops believing what someone says they're going to become. She begins judging only what they consistently choose to do. This often frustrates people who are used to fixing problems with apologies. They wonder why their words no longer work. The answer is simple. Words lost their value the moment actions stopped supporting them. And rebuilding that trust requires much more than another conversation. 5. She begins emotionally letting go. Perhaps the most important thing people fail to notice is that a Sigma female usually leaves emotionally before she leaves physically. Long before the breakup, long before the final conversation. She begins quietly accepting that the relationship may be ending. She reflects. She grieves. She asks herself difficult questions. She considers whether anything can realistically change. From the outside, then everything may appear normal. She still shows kindness. She still fulfills responsibilities. She still communicates respectfully. But internally, she's slowly preparing herself for life without the relationship. This stage is incredibly dangerous because it's almost invisible. The other person often believes everything is finally becoming peaceful. They don't realize she's simply stopped fighting battles she no longer believes can be won. By the time they notice the emotional distance, she's already taken the first steps toward moving on. And once that process begins, turning it around becomes far more difficult than most people ever imagine. 6. She stops making you a priority. One of the quietest yet most powerful signs that you've pushed a Sigma female too far is a shift in her priorities. There was a time when she looked forward to your messages. She made time for your conversations. She remembered the little details about your day and genuinely wanted to be part of your life. But after enough disappointment, something changes. She stops rearranging her schedule. She stops checking her phone with the same excitement. She no longer feels responsible for solving every problem in the relationship. Instead, she begins investing her time in the people and goals that bring her peace. To the other person, it may seem like she's suddenly become distant. The truth is that distance didn't happen overnight. It was built one ignored feeling, one broken promise, and one act of disrespect at a time. 7. She becomes impossible to manipulate. Before reaching her limit, a Sigma female often gives people the benefit of the doubt. She believes in second chances. She assumes misunderstandings can be resolved through honest communication. But repeated disappointment changes her perspective. She begins recognizing emotional manipulation much faster. Guilt trips no longer work. Empty apologies no longer impress her. Promises without action no longer create hope. She has learned that manipulation only succeeds when someone is afraid of losing you. The Sigma female is no longer making decisions from fear. She's making them from clarity. That clarity makes her incredibly difficult to control. For someone who relied on excuses or emotional games, this shift can feel shocking. The tactics that once delayed consequences suddenly have no effect at all. 8. She walks away without creating chaos. Many people expect dramatic endings. They imagine shouting matches, long emotional messages, public arguments. The Sigma female usually chooses something much quieter. When she knows the relationship is truly over, she simply leaves. She doesn't need to destroy your reputation. She doesn't need revenge to feel validated. She doesn't waste months trying to prove who was right. She understands that peace is worth more than the temporary satisfaction of winning an argument. Ironically, this calm departure often hurts more than anger ever could, because it leaves no dramatic scene to focus on, only silence. And silence has a way of forcing people to sit alone with the consequences of their own choices. 9. She rarely comes back. One of the biggest misunderstandings about Sigma females is that they're cold. They're not. In fact, they often stay longer than they should because they genuinely hope things will improve. They communicate, they forgive, they try again. But once they finally decide to leave, it's usually because they've already exhausted every reasonable possibility. The decision wasn't made in a single moment. It was made after countless moments. That's why returning is so uncommon. Not because she's incapable of forgiveness, but because she has already accepted the lesson. She knows that love without respect eventually becomes pain, and she refuses to repeat the same cycle simply because someone became afraid of losing her. If she ever returns, it will only be because real, consistent change has taken place over time, not because of emotional promises made in desperation. 10. She becomes stronger than before. Perhaps the greatest mistake people make is believing that pushing a Sigma female too far will break her forever. It usually does the opposite. The experience hurts. She grieves. She questions herself. She takes time to heal. But eventually, she transforms that pain into wisdom. She raises her standards. She strengthens her boundaries. She becomes even more selective about who she trusts. The next time someone enters her life, they don't meet the woman they once knew. They meet someone wiser, someone calmer, Someone who has learned that protecting her peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. Every difficult experience teaches her something. Not to become colder, not to stop loving, but to love more wisely. That is why each challenge leaves her stronger than the last. Conclusion. Pushing a Sigma female too far doesn't usually lead to dramatic revenge or emotional chaos. It leads to something far quieter and often far more permanent. She stops explaining. She stops chasing. She stops hoping that someone will change simply because they promised to. Instead, she accepts reality. She protects her peace. And when she finally walks away, she does so with the understanding that some relationships can only survive when both people are willing to grow. Her silence isn't weakness. It's the result of countless conversations that went unheard. Her distance isn't punishment, it's self-respect. And her decision to leave isn't impulsive. It's often the final chapter of a story she spent far too long trying to save. The biggest mistake people make is assuming they'll recognize the moment they've gone too far. In reality, that moment usually passed long before they noticed. Because by the time a Sigma female gives up, she's rarely acting out of anger. She's acting out of clarity. And clarity is incredibly difficult to reverse. If this video resonated with you, let us know in the comments. Do you think people appreciate someone's boundaries only after they've crossed them? Or can they learn before it's too late? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more videos on Sigma female psychology, relationships, and personal growth. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.